All right, guys, it's Friday, December 12th, 2025, which means it's time for another Friday Roundtable extravaganza. And joining me is a podcaster with funky glasses and the craziest hair in the business, Viva Frei. That is the intro for you. I think this is about your 10th time on the show, which is, my friend, slightly pale in comparison, because I've also got visiting scholar from the University of Mississippi, author of the forthcoming book, Suicidal Empathy, which is like his 87th book, and the most returning guest in Rubin Report history, Saad. Gentlemen, how are you?
Great to be with you.
Doing well.
Viva, I feel that I must give you an opportunity to say something, because my intro there was meh. And then I said such nice things about.
Forget it. We're at 10 times on the show, Rubin. It's nice to see you again. And I don't remember the last time, but I just know the world has gone exceedingly crazier since the last time.
Before you start, Dave, forgive me.
Yes.
This is your show, but can I just do a little flex? Is it possible? Earlier today, it has been confirmed by the cosmos that I am the coolest dad alive. Why? Because I found out that Nicki Minaj is a fan who follows me. I can retire.
Wow. You got Nicki Minaj?
Yes, sir. Then I told my wife that I might have to go meet her to do a one-on-one interview. She wasn't as pleased with that one.
Wait, Nicki Minaj, she's the one with the wet pussy in the bucket, or is that somebody else? Who's that?
She's WAP.
Oh, that's Cardi B.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well. No.
Because that would have been cool because of the bucket. I still don't understand that thing.
I can one up Gad on that. I got blocked by Pink, so I believe I am the coolest dad.
You might be the cool. You win.
Wait. I can one up you on that. Bette Midler called me a racist.
It's a tie between you two.
Anywho, let's do a program with two of the guys that I have on. I'm always talking about my short list of sane people. You're both on there. And Viva, we're going to start with something that you put up because, yesterday, really for the first time in the 3 months since our friend Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I fully addressed the craziness, the subsequent craziness after his death, meaning the conspiracy theories, the stuff that Candace and Tucker and others have been putting out there. I mentioned Megyn Kelly and just how this has frayed friendships. It is broken a right that should be so unified right now. Only 11 months into Donald Trump's second go around here, and you put up something that I thought was quite interesting on the Twitter machine. Look at this. So these are images of thumbnails and video views, in essence, the titles and video views that Candace has done. And it's just a small selection of them, videos that Candace has done. The amount of views, and in essence, what you're showing there is the amount of money, the bank she has rolled in while offering up crazy conspiracy theories about who killed Charlie, talking about the people who are attempting to kill her, like the French Legionnaires, while at the same time she went to Dollyland or Dolly World or whatever it's called. What's it called? Parton Town? Dollywood the other day and showed up at Tucker's Christmas party. All of this nonsense. I really, you guys know, I hate the interpersonal portion of this. But when I saw that image, I was like, man, that's what's driving this. And I don't think it maybe is much more than that. Do you think it's that simple, Viva, that this is a click and money chase?
Well, people may or may not believe me when I say this. I didn't post that to show the numbers. I didn't even look at the numbers. And I didn't post that to show that she's making bank off this. I posted it in response to the fight between her and Tim Pool, where she accuses Tim Pool of, who profited the most from this. So I guess in a way, it was not to show that she's making money off of this, because I don't think there's anything wrong in monetizing your analysis, period. And I wasn't actually criticizing Candace for it. I was just highlighting that it is the borderline exclusivity of her content over the last 3 months. And for her to come out and accuse Tim Pool of trying to capitalize off of this and putting up a thumbnail, who profits, and they have, Tim Pool, for whatever the reason, Cash Patel. It's like, it's fine that she wants to dedicate her content to this. And had something else happened, it was Macron, it'll be whatever the scandal is. And I say it without any blame. But for someone to accuse Tim Pool of trying to capitalize off this, when it has been 99% her content for the last 3 months, it takes a little bit of confession through projection and lack of self-awareness. But she has the right to do it. And I'm not saying, ban her, block her. I'm not even saying don't listen to her. Let her speak. But it's all of her content for the last 3 months, 24/7.
Right. So, Gad, as a behavioral psychologist, can you talk a little bit about the position that we're sort of all in, not only as on the creator side and on the audience side, because the pressures related to doing things that will get clicks, I think, are now superseding anything that has to do with doing something that is true. But not everybody also puts the truth at the top of the hierarchy of importance, or maybe the way that I'd like to think that the three of us would at least glean at it while we're doing this. How do you sort of quantify or analyze the behavior around what's happening here?
Yeah. So, I would say it depends what you are trying to optimize as your key metric, right? If you're playing football and you don't recognize that the team that wins is the one that scores more points, but you somehow seek to optimize which team keeps the ball longer, then you're probably going to end up with a losing season, right? So I think all of us here try to put out content that will hopefully appeal to people. Yes, we're concerned about that, but there is a higher goal, which is, can we create content that at the end of the night we feel proud about, right? And so, for example, I have chats with pretty obscure academics that get me 3,000 or 4,000 views, right? So it's certainly not worth my time to have done so, but I am bound by the fact that I also need to create content that hopefully, however many people view it, they say, you know what, I learned something new here. I feel enriched intellectually by what I just watched. Maybe that's my professorial ethos. I think the problem with Candace and a lot of those folks is that the metric that they're trying to optimize is, as you guys have said, clickbait. And therefore, I will do whatever it takes to ensure that the most amount of people come to see me. And it's regrettable because the 7 deadly sins, which we've known for now for almost a millennia, have pride on top. It also has greed. The reason why the 7 deadly sins are eternal is because we constantly fall prey to them. And regrettably, many of these content creators are exhibiting exactly that.
So, Viva, as someone that, you're in a lot of these fights, and I'm going to read another tweet of yours in just a moment, how do you decide to balance some of this stuff, doing something that's worthwhile versus getting clicks versus doing something that's honorable? And I guess really, are we just right now, even by doing this, are we just giving her exactly what she wants?
I'll say this, and people can choose to believe it or not. I never have ever had the thought of what's going to get the most clicks in terms of what I cover. It's what I'm interested in, and it's what I think I can add value to. And even with Candace, like I'm avoiding it. I don't think it's value added to anything. I don't think her analysis is actually value added. It's more like gossipy daytime television, for which there's a market, and quite clearly a big market. But when the metric becomes anything other than what you're interested in, what you think needs to be explained to the world, or what you think the world needs at that point in time, well, you can chase the bucks, and it's going to be, not trying to catch a falling knife, but trying to, chase that white dragon. You're going to continually chase something, and eventually it catches up when people get the impression it's just exploiting things and not actually adding anything of meaning to the discussion. But yeah, it is wild. Quite clearly, there's a market there. There's a market for conspiracy theories, but just to spin conspiracy theories for the sake of spinning conspiracy theories and then demonize anybody who doesn't go to that extent to say, well, now you believe the official narrative. We are in two camps of seeing everything as a conspiracy everywhere, and then, not seeing conspiracy anywhere, which is, I don't think anybody really adheres to that.
Right. My general position on this was I was trying to honor his legacy and talk about Charlie and talk about the good things of America over the last couple of months. And I thought that a lot of this would just kind of die down over time. But oddly, and maybe this is the nature of the internet, like literally the structure of the internet and the algorithms, it's only gotten bigger and bigger. And it's only until this week where I finally addressed it because now Erica herself is speaking up. So I felt that was kind of the respectful airlock that at least I wanted to play with, let's say, related to all this. Viva, let me read this other tweet and then have Gad respond, because you put this up, and I think this illustrates what's going on here. What is the single best piece of evidence that Candace has uncovered through her coverage that contradicts Tyler was the shooter? Sincere question. The best piece of evidence that Candace uncovered, or 1, the best piece of evidence, 2, that Candace uncovered, 3, that contradicts Robinson was the shooter. Sincere question. Please answer. Now, and you were retweeting somebody who asked about this. I mean, there's been so many theories that have been debunked. You know, she had this Egyptian plane thing where she got the timestamp wrong. Someone pointed that out, and she said that was even more proof of that she was right. There were the people in the maroon jackets who, she claimed were probably involved, and then it turned out to be a kid who admitted he's just a kid there, that him and his friends dressed sloppily. That's basically what he said. I mean, there's so much of this. But Gad, what do you do in the face of endless lies or nonsense? I mean, do you just sit it out? That is where we're at right now.
Yes, I'll answer it in 2 ways. About a year and a half ago, I appeared on a British show hosted by a British psychiatrist who, towards the end of the show, asked me, of all your years as a professor of behavioral sciences and so on, what is the singular phenomenon that has most surprised you about the human condition? And I'd never been asked that question before. So I had to pause. And then I thought, well, the inability to get people to change their opinions, irrespective of how much evidence you might show them, once it is deeply anchored in that position. As a matter of fact, oftentimes, the more evidence I show you that is contrary to your position, the more anchored and the more you believe in your position. And so that's a very difficult reality to recognize when we are in the business of trying to defend truth. So that's number 1. Number 2, in the chapter 7 of The Parasitic Mind, which is titled How to Seek Truth, I begin with sort of a pessimistic statement, namely that our faculty of reasoning did not evolve to seek some objective truth, but rather to win arguments. So even our module of reasoning doesn't care about objective reality or truth. If my team says that the sky is purple, I will die on that hill to make sure that my team wins, irrespective of whether it is connected to reality or not. So that's why when I wake up every morning, I'm both filled with existential angst, but also excited. Can I break through those people, or should I just put up my arms and give up?
Let me ask you a quick follow-up to that, sure. And then Viva can jump in. But we don't have to make this all about Candace, but when someone's going down these conspiracy theories and they're really down there and every day is a new one and it's a continuation of the story and everything else, how do you get them to a place of where, okay, here's the book, here's the actual evidence, here's the video, here's all the stuff. If we were to hand that to her, and again, I don't need to make it about her, but to someone right now, I think they would say, well, that was concocted by the blah, 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 and you just never get there.
So here's the issue. You've probably heard the statement before that human beings are a pattern recognition species, right? I mean, that's how we learn things. It is always easy to come up with illusory causality that somehow ties your weaved conspiracy story as a pattern. So it really is, and again, I don't want to sound pessimistic. For the people who are truly deep down the rabbit hole, I don't think I could do anything to them. So one of the skills that I think I've learned through all my years of public engagement is to gauge whether there is any hope for me continuing our dialogue so I can flip you, or whether you're so down the rabbit hole that it would be completely useless time. And I think I've become better at doing that.
Viva, what do you make of how this is all sort of burned down what should be a very unified right now, or at least what's happening online? It's very hard to tell what goes online and how much it's affecting the real world. But the endless fighting and the all the Tucker stuff and the Meghan stuff, it's just insane right now.
Well, yeah, that's a double-edged sword as well, because people say, well, on the right, we're not a cult, so we do have disagreements and we do debate. And then, the flip side is everyone's infighting now. Why can't we unify? Well, unify like the cultists on the left is not always a good thing when you're not pursuing the right goals. So, I mean,
Sure. But setting aside a few differences sometimes is good if you're trying to keep the country, I don't know, American maybe.
True. I think what we're seeing right now is a culmination of just a lack of faith in institutions, a lack of faith in so-called experts, a lack of faith in government, a lack of faith in law enforcement, and people literally don't know what to believe, to the point where some people question whether or not the earth is round. And so, conspiracy theories, there are always different types. You have some people who say the Holocaust never happened. You have others who say it happened, but it was not as bad as everybody's saying, or it happened, it's as bad as everybody says, but there is a conspiracy here. The Zionists did it to justify the claim to the state of Israel. Sandy Hook, there's varying levels of conspiracy. It never happened. It was all crisis actors. Nobody died. To it happened, but the real conspiracy was how the government didn't actually implement protocol to protect that school. When it comes to Charlie Kirk, I don't believe the official narrative either, because I don't believe that Tyler Robinson acted alone. And I would like to know who influenced him, who was in that Discord group, who had advanced knowledge of this, and someone to tell me that he acted alone and nobody else knew. I'll have great difficulty believing that. But then beyond that, to say, well, Tyler Robinson didn't shoot it, the bullet must have come from somewhere else. It came from a lapel. And there's no way of disproving any of this, because it's based on not positing any plausible theory, just entertaining outlandish ones. And some people make a good market out of it. It's good to ask questions, but not unfalsifiable questions that only lead to convincing people that, up is down and down is up. That's sort of where we're at right now. People are so desperately lacking faith in institutions, they can believe anything that they can make up in their own minds, and nothing can possibly disprove it to them.
Yeah, I think the institution point is good, because had they not failed us so terribly in COVID, and had mainstream media not lied to us about so many things, many people would not be in the brain-broken situation they are, which is why I'm sympathetic to a lot of the people that got caught up in this. I'm not necessarily sympathetic to the people that are abusing them, I would say. But, Gad, to your earlier point about how these people kind of double down every time, did you guys happen to, this is a sidebar, but did you guys happen to see my former friend and colleague Anna Kasparian on with Bill Maher?
I was going to mention that, actually.
Because it's just a perfect example of what you laid out there. It was truly Bill Maher at his absolute best. He says to her, which Middle East country could you wear that dress in? And, she's always wearing very tight dresses, showing a lot of skin, wear a lot of makeup, the whole thing. And the answer, obviously, is Tel Aviv, or quite literally any city in Israel, even Jerusalem. She'd get away with it. And because her Israel derangement is so high, she just refuses to say it, thus doubling down on her own nonsense, where then she followed up with a tweet saying she'd never step foot in Israel, and condemning the women of the Middle East to live in these oppressive places. I thought you'd have fun with that one.
And if I can add, I don't know if you saw, I tried to engage her.
Yeah.
And when I did, it's exactly what you just said, which is, but who did 9/11? But what about Bashar al-Assad? Literally had absolutely nothing to do with the content of the original issue, which is, does Islam promote sartorial freedom for its women or not? But somehow, because her team has to win, and her team says that Israel and the Jews are evil, it's always going to point there.
All right, let's talk about Tax Network USA for a second, and then my favorite human being on the planet. He's part man, part lizard. You know where we're going. Do you owe back taxes or haven't even filed in years? Now's the time to resolve your tax issues. With the national debate around abolishing the income tax system, the IRS is pushing back by becoming more aggressive than ever. They're sending more collection notices, filing more tax liens, and collecting billions more than in recent years. If you owe or you haven't filed, it's not a matter of if the IRS will act, it's when. Right now, Tax Network USA is offering a completely free IRS research and discovery call to show you exactly where you stand. Their programs and strategies can save you thousands or even eliminate your debt entirely if you qualify. Don't make the mistake of trying to handle the IRS on your own. Representing yourself or calling them directly can waive your rights and cost you significantly more. The IRS is not on your side, but Tax Network USA is. Get the protection you need and start resolving your tax matters once and for all. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dave for your free discovery call. Don't let the IRS be the first to act. So first off, speaking of part man, part lizard, did you guys see the video this week that was going viral? Gavin Newsom sitting in this chair and the way he has his legs crossed like this. No. And we did a little research. Gad, as a doctor, I'm sure you, although you're not a medical doctor, I'm sure you know, the lizard has its testicles internally, which is why I'm pretty sure he's able to sit like this. Maybe we can throw some images up. But anyway, here is good old Gav on Donald Trump.
I think Trump is one of the most destructive presidents and human beings in my lifetime. I think this republic is at real risk, this country being unrecognizable. And I have no patience for people that want to indulge it. I can't stand the crony capitalism. I can't stand all these supplicants that are sitting there bending the knee to this president. I can't stand the universities that have done that, the law firms that have done that, the individual corporate leaders that have done that, the other governors, maybe Democrats and Republicans that have been complicit at this moment. This guy is reckless. He's wrecked this country. We'll not have a fair and free election if we don't continue to fight. That's what matters to me, seriously. I'm the future ex-governor, and who the hell knows what happens the rest of my life, except one thing I know that matters in the rest of my life is I have to look at my kids in the goddamn eye. I mean that, seriously. That's not like a politician thing, to look them in the eye and say that not a peril of being judged, not to have lived in the moment.
You know, one of his strange tics, you both laughed at it there, is where he says, God damn. Yeah. He has to look at his kids in their goddamn eyes. Like, what? It's such a...
It's some sort of implicit recognition he does not get along with his kids or he doesn't like them. It's not like, God damn it, I got to look at my kids in the eyes and say, I got to look at my goddamn kids. He hates his kids or he knows that his kids hate him.
Viva, is that the best example? You you sort of mentioned it earlier, but confession through projection. Everything he said there was a confession of his own sins, not Donald Trump's.
It doesn't even need to be said anymore. It's pathological. If it were a woman who went on that level of a tirade, you would call her histrionic, hysterical. You know, what that was basically something of a rambling meltdown of no sense whatsoever. One of the most destructive presidents and human beings. That is, forget Jeffrey Dahmer, forget George Bush, forget all of the tyrants of the Middle East. No, Donald Trump is one of the most destructive human beings of his life. It's just delusional, but it works on low IQ voters. But Dave, one funny thing about that pose, I made it into the New York Post with my take on his pose. I said, he's displaying the position of his taxpayers before he taxes them more up the ass. Something along those lines. It was a good one.
Can I add a psychological angle to this?
Yes, please.
I'm always fascinated when I hear folks like Gavin spew the stuff that they do, whether in the deep recesses of their minds they actually don't believe it or do believe it.
Right.
And here, and I'm torn. I don't know what's the real answer is, and maybe you guys can enlighten me. But there is some very interesting research from evolutionary biology by a great evolutionary biologist named Robert Trivers, who offered an adaptive explanation for why humans are so good at self-deceiving. And the argument is that if you and I, let's say Dave, are having a conversation and I'd like to be Machiavellian with you and manipulate you, I might put out certain nonverbal cues that signal that I am being duplicitous, which you will pick up on. And one of the ways by which I can ensure that that doesn't happen is for me, as Seinfeld episode explained, first you need to believe the lie. So I wonder,
it's not a lie if you believe it.
Exactly. So I wonder, and you guys could tell me, do you think that the lizard believes this stuff or it's all inauthentic and he knows it's BS?
I think there's almost no way to know with this guy whose policies I literally fled California this week 4 years ago because of, and who I campaigned against with Larry Elder and everything. I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know what's in his mind, but I don't know how you could look at the record of destruction of what he did to San Francisco and then what he exported to the entire state of California and the criminality and the drugs and all of the companies that fled. I mean, when Elon Musk took Tesla and some of his other companies out of California, he had a press conference saying he was happy. Like, putting aside what your feelings on Elon are and all that, the amount of tax money you just lost that you're now going to have to punish other people. So I don't know. Is that purely Machiavellian just for power? What do you think, Viva?
Well, I tend to think he actually believes it. I tend to think every villain is the hero of their own story. And when Musk leaves California, it's not an indication of Newsom's failed policy. It's an indication of Musk's avarice, greed. And so, it's always the two screens, one film, what is it, one screen, two films, because it just depends on the metric that you're looking at in order to determine, homelessness is at a record high. Well, that's good. They're servicing record numbers of homeless. And so in Gavin's equation, having more homeless is better because, you can service more people and service more homeless, and therefore you're doing more good. Like Bernie Sanders, bread lines are a good thing. It's not good to have nobody in bread lines because then you're not serving people who need food. The idea of actually minimizing poverty is sort of on the back end of their equation. So he looks at all of the consequences and nefarious in his state. And he just flips the equation and says, why are they? Oh, it's there because we haven't done enough. It's there because of greed of people not paying enough taxes, because of, the Elon Musk's leaving and taking their money with them. And then flip side, he decides to look at all the good stats. I mean, good in a sense that they've got a lot of business, a lot of corporations in California. They've got a big economy. They've got a lot of people, but it's easy to deceive yourself to factor out the bad stats and then blame those bad stats on your enemies.
Well, let's listen to Gav himself on some of Cali's successes.
We have a formula for success. I mean, California's success is not an accident. It's by design. I mean, we have 18% of the world's R&D. We invest in that. Billions and billions of those tax dollars go back into R&D tax credits. The UC system. I mean, how many more engineers, scientists, more Nobel laureates do we need? $180 billion. It's build.ca.gov. You can look it up. A transparent website that shows the biggest investments in capital and infrastructure in California's history that is being invested as we speak. We've dominated in manufacturing. 2.8% of manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, is in place like Florida. It's 13.9% in California. We dominate in every critical category.
Of the nation's total manufacturing output.
The nation's total. We're number one in every category. So the economic opportunities, the growth, the energy, the daring, the creativity, all of that is present in California. My gosh. We have more Fortune 500 companies than we've had in a decade in California. We have more unicorn companies we've ever had. Look at the venture capital that's going back into the state.
All right, so I welcome either one of you to point out any inaccuracies in what he said there. There's always a way to fudge numbers and to sort of hide things, but I would give you one other number, which we just double-checked. Do you know how many people have fled California in the last 5 years? You guys want to take a stab at it?
I'll take a shot. 1 million?
I'll say 2.6.
If I split the difference, you're right. It's 1.66 million. Okay? So the proof to me is in the pudding. You can tell me about numbers and you can tell me about all of those things, and they may or may not be true, and we know that you can always manipulate data to some extent. Where are people going and where are people fleeing from? To me, that is the answer. Gad.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, I study consumer behavior, right? Market penetration, market share is a much better indicator of how much your product is loved than a survey that you fill out where you might lie for impression management reasons. So, of course, your walking, how you walk to where is a much better predictor of your preferences. But on a slightly separate note, the interlocutor whom I had, I'm going to say the pleasure, although not quite, of meeting at a Shabbat dinner in San Francisco. Did you see how enamored? It's as if the guy speaking...
Ezra Klein from the New York Times.
Ezra Klein, yeah. It's as if he is interacting with a mixture of Epictetus, Newton, and Darwin. Right? I mean, holy shit, the depth, the profundity with which Gavin was spewing his stuff. I mean, slow down. It's too profound for me. Let me take some notes. And I've seen the same thing with Kamala Harris when she's interviewed, how they kind of sit like this and say, my goodness, you are just arguably the most brilliant person alive today. Do they believe that, or are they bullshitting to my earlier
Right.
point?
It gets us back to the other thing. By the way, my guys are telling me right now, 12 Fortune 500 companies have fled California in the last couple of years. So, some of it, Viva, do you think that some of it is, even if his numbers are even roughly correct, or some of those data points he pointed to are roughly correct, that doesn't mean it's because of what California's been doing. In many cases, it's probably despite what Cali's doing. Cali was the dream of Americans for basically 100 years, go west. It created this incredible stuff with all of this unbelievable natural wonder and the industries that went there, Hollywood, et cetera. Just because you have some good numbers doesn't mean it's because of what he has done over these last, 6 or so years.
What Gavin Newsom did in law or in debating, it's the shotgun argument, spaghetti against the wall. He says so many things in such a short period of time, it becomes impossible to even validate or invalidate any one particular item. What I loved is that he referred to the website as transparent. Like, all right, now I know you're lying to me. Go to the website. It's very transparent. Thanks for admitting you're fudging the numbers. You have more, whatever, big companies than you did 10 years ago. With population growth, I should hope you do. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be not particularly good growth, but it might be total collapse. And then going into industries that Florida doesn't compete with California in, to compare apples and oranges, literally, or to compare oranges and avocados. But hey, here's one. Homeless population. You got a homeless population in LA that's bigger than some American cities. You've got more illegal aliens in California, in LA, than some major American cities. What about the Palisades? Tell us, have people rebuilt their homes yet? You don't have water in your fire hydrants, and you're going to tell me that things are going well in California? You donate half of your, or whatever, 20% of your firefighting force to Ukraine. You don't have water because you're diverting it for the San Antonio, or whatever it was, the San Antonio smelt. And you're going to tell me that things are running well in California? $6 gas? People can't sell their homes because they're unsellable? Yeah, things are going great, Gavin. Thanks a lot. And everybody's fleeing to Florida, and nobody's going back with the U-Hauls. Yeah, tell me your stats one more time while we just deny reality.
Quite literally, my favorite data point over the last couple of years is that when we were renting our U-Haul to get our stuff from Cali to Florida, literally 4 years ago this week, we had to pay double because the guy said nobody's driving the trucks back anymore, so it just economically does not work out. A little bit more about what's going on in Cali, because this will show it quite clearly. The average California gas price right now is $4.41, and in Florida, where he is clearly not a fan of DeSantis and the rest of us, it's $2.86. Now, I'm not saying that's completely the fault of Gavin Newsom and completely the credit of everything going on here, but it has something to do with governance. Here's one more. He hasn't mentioned chopping off kids' genitals yet, but he did earlier this week.
Evolutions. We didn't get into trans sports. That's an issue no one wants to hear about because 80% of the people listening disagree with my position on this. But it comes from my heart, not just my head. It wasn't a political evolution. Your
position being that?
I don't think it's I want to see trans kids. I have a trans godson. There's no governor that's signed more pro-trans legislation than I have, and no one has been a stronger advocate for the LGBTQ community. But you have to accommodate the reality of those whose rights are being taken away as we advance the rights of the trans community in terms of the fairness of athletic competition. And I just think that's not a bigoted position.
No, it's a retarded position, but maybe it's not a bigoted position. Gad, help me here. He's so duplicitous, and Viva, you're so right. He says so many things in a row, and they're often conflicting that it's hard to follow up and pinpoint where you want to go with it.
Well, I now call it the Malcolm Gladwell effect because you gentlemen probably remember that about a month or so ago, the luminary Malcolm Gladwell explained to us plebs that, I guess, I got cowed into saying this because I needed to maintain my status in the Manhattan elite social clubs, but that, in reality, it seems wrong. What is that?
Talking about this topic specifically.
About this exact topic. I guess there are biological differences between men and women. But imagine how dark your relationship to truth must be, that in your existential calculus of how to navigate life. Now, he's not a professor, but he is an author that is read by millions of people. So he is a supposed peddler of truth. Yet he felt, to our earlier point about which metric do you maximize, he felt that it was a lot more important to stay on the right side of the cool kids party by saying that there are no innate differences between men and women. And only when he realized in a very pragmatic way that it was no longer cool to say this because the winds were changing, he came out and said, I guess I was just bullshitting. And that's what Gavin is doing. It baffles me that such people exist.
Viva, I actually, when I heard that clip this week, I actually was happy because what I thought was, boy, he's still going to do this. And it is such a losing thing at this point, especially as it pertains to kids. You want to dress up however the hell you want and do whatever you want with your body when you're an adult. I don't care, and I don't think most Americans care. You have your own private beliefs, and that is. But the fact that he's still on this train, to me, this could be the type of thing that really, really does hamper him for the upcoming presidential run.
Can we all have a little bit of a laugh at that? He can't even say the 2S LGBTQIA+. He doesn't even know what the numbers are anymore. A. B. What are the odds he happens to have a trans godson or whatever? It's an amazing thing how people who are in this silo of social contagion seem to be exponentially more impacted by it. These journalists, and I put
by the way, Gad is two-spirit. I don't know if you know that, so just treat him accordingly.
Thank you.
These journalists or so-called journalists, you have, Piers Morgan interviewing Nick Fuentes, and they don't ask follow-up questions. You have this guy, Ezra Klein. I would have asked Gavin, hey, Gavin, I'm sorry, stop your shit diarrhea at the mouth business right there. What rights have been taken away from so-called trans kids? Name one right that has so allegedly been taken away from them. And to the extent I know you're going to have no answer to that, you targeting kids with trans ideology, trans laws is grooming, period. Keep other kids out of your mouth. I mean, pun intended. You are not in a business of targeting other people's children with trans legislation to protect from the taking away of rights that is not occurring. What you are in fact doing is genitally mutilating children, and there's a word for that. It used to be illegal. So, hey, Gavin, what right has been taken away from so-called trans kids? The answer is none. The only rights taken away are from girls to compete in girls' sports against girls, biological girls, who don't have to compete against people who have a physiological advantage over them. And then you want to get around that physiological advantage by sterilizing them before they go through puberty. And now you say, now it's even because we sterilized a boy before he went through puberty and got testosterone. You're animals. You're actual modern day Dr. Mengeles, and people need to say it.
I mean, this is what Jordan Peterson says. We'll look back on this in 20 years and realize these people were butchers. But it also goes to show how completely idiotic, he butchered the LGBTQI, whatever it was. But it's like, you're going after the L's and the G's and the B's to whatever extent they're really there. You're going after them because you're most likely taking a young, effeminate boy who maybe will grow up to be a gay man, or a girl who's a little more butch, as we used to say, and you're chopping their genitals off. So don't tell me that the L's and the G's are that thrilled with the T's.
Can I, before you go on?
Yes. Yeah.
Because this trans craziness, of course, it applies tragically to children, but let's apply it to science. I've shared this example before, but maybe your audience is unaware. University of Waterloo is one of the top technical universities in Canada, right? Sort of akin to MIT or Caltech. They're very good in engineering. They're very good in computer science. So recently they had 2 positions open in their School of Computer Science where the original compiler for Fortran in the 60s was developed. So, this is an MIT level kind of school. For their endowed Canadian government chaired professorship, if you applied for artificial intelligence, you had to be two-spirit or non-binary or so. So just imagine the Canadian government in a field as hot and as important as AI has said that if you're not in one of those categories, don't apply to our school. So yes, it's tragic to children, but it's tragic epistemologically to science, to truth. It's unbelievable.
There's going to be a lot of guys giving a first-time hand job going, give me that grant.
It is.
Come on. It was obvious.
Hold on. I might have to think about that joke. No,
think it through, Viva. It makes sense. All right, finish us up here.
Oh no, I was just going to say, we will look back on it the way we look back at.
Don't think too hard, Viva.
Lobotomies. But it is, and again, everybody thinks that the Nazis or Dr. Mengele he must have been evil. He must have exuded evil. I have no doubt that all of the atrocities of the past, they found a way to rationalize them under the cloak of morality and virtue at the time. When they were killing handicaps in Nazi Germany, it was called mercy killings. What could be more merciful than mercy killings? And now you call it acknowledging trans rights for children who can't drink alcohol because they can't make those types of judgments, who can't get a tattoo, but it's empowering to them to listen to them, to mutilate them. And Dave, like you say, it's the most homophobic and misogynist movement out there, because it takes a young gay kid and says, you're actually a girl. Let's mess up your ability to have an orgasm for the rest of your life. And then hope that kid doesn't grow up to have deep, deep resentment to the monsters that did that to him.
Right. What you're referencing there is what Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil. I mean, basically, you think that these people, like if you met them, they'd be like a video game character, the bad guy in a video game or a movie, and actually they were just regular people who started doing terrible things or often did nothing. But all right, let's leave that there. We'll talk about white people. I love them, but not everybody does. But first, Chef IQ. Chef IQ Sense is the wireless cooking thermometer that takes all the guesswork out of holiday meals. Whether it's turkey or prime rib, your food comes out perfect every time, turning "I think it's done" into "I know it's perfect." It even tells you when to flip, when to take off the heat, and how long to let it rest. It's basically like having a personal chef right in your kitchen. With Chef IQ, you can sip your cocoa and actually enjoy time with your family instead of hovering over the oven. And here's the best part, it's the gift everyone will love. It's perfect for seasoned cooks, kitchen rookies, and everyone in between. This season, give yourself and your loved ones the gift of perfectly cooked meals with Chef IQ. And with promo code Rubin, you can save 30% and finish your holiday shopping in one shot. Go to chefiq.com and use promo code Rubin. All right, so white people, they're often getting the short end of the stick these days. Everyone's always attacking white people. And then there's a set of white people who attack themselves. This is Kentucky Representative Sarah Stalker, who's having a real-time struggle session.
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good about being white every day for a lot of reasons. Because it's a point of privilege that I get to move through the world in a way that so many of my other colleagues and friends and family members of the community don't get the privilege to do. And I'm just a female, but just a woman, just a white woman. If I was a white man, I would be functioning from a point of an even greater privilege. I think we're missing an opportunity when kids have a moment to reflect about how the color of their skin does and does not allow them to move through the world. Running to them and trying to stifle that and trying to say you shouldn't feel bad, so we don't want to ever expose you to something that is going to make you have to pause and have maybe some internal feelings. It's a missed opportunity for some really good dialogue.
I have a great AI video for that, idea for AI video, which is, how far do you think we are, Viva, from someone like her saying that and then literally in the next moment taking out a paintbrush and painting herself brown and then saying, "Thus I will live as a brown woman because I will do it. I'm not just going to say how much I hate myself as a white woman. I will live as an oppressed brown woman." Like, it actually doesn't seem like we'd be that far from someone falling on the sword and trying something that insane.
Dave, first of all, when I saw that video...
There's probably pills you could do, peptides, I assume.
Well, no, I thought that video was AI. And it's like, before I comment, can you all confirm that this is a real video? You want to know what white supremacy in its truest form looks like? It's that woman right there who thinks that white people just float through the universe like that person from The Hills Are Alive. Like, "Oh, I'm white." And she must walk through the universe, like look down at brown people and black people, say, "Oh, you wish you were white. I have it so easy." That is white supremacy. To look at a black person or a brown person and say, "I have it so much better because I'm white." It's not hatred of self, because she'll never paint herself brown. It is absolute scorn and what is it called? The soft bigotry of low expectations. She looks at brown and black people and says they only wish they were white. Nobody thinks that way except for a white supremacist. And you notice the diamonds on our fingers and the nice pearl. The real privilege, if there is one, is financial. Nobody looks at innate characteristics and says it's a privilege, because by definition a privilege is something that's only afforded to certain people. Race and biology is not a question of that. It's not subject to the morality of privilege. But you know what is? Finances and political privilege, of which she quite clearly has a lot.
By the way, they're telling me right now she is in fact married to a white man. Gad, you have golden olive skin, so it's a little hard for me to ask you this question without an implicit bias.
That's right. So two things. Number one, I feel more disgusted with myself around this time of period where my gorgeous tan and natural skin becomes more green. And then I feel more victimized and superior as I come visit you in Florida or California. But I hadn't locked and loaded this example, in preparation for the show. But as I saw her, it reminded me of a case. I mean, one of the things that, and forgive the plug, one of the things that is fantastic about my forthcoming book is that I have just a bewildering number of cases of this kind of suicidal empathy. One of which that really applies to this particular segment. This is a white woman who had, spent her life trying to demonstrate that it is wrong to argue that black men are in any way violent or that they rape women or any of that stuff. It's simply not true. And to the extent that it happens, it's because of white supremacy. So she went to Haiti to stand along with her black brothers. And she found out that, unfortunately, a guy took her up to a rooftop and raped her violently all night. And she was shocked as she was telling him, please stop, when she said to him, but don't you realize that I am a Malcolm X fan and a Malcolm X scholar? That didn't stop him from raping her. And then she basically says, but I've learned and have been enriched from the experience. So when you get a white woman getting raped violently by a black man, that is further solidifying the fact that it is white supremacy that's the problem in the world, and that she's been enriched by this rape. I don't think I need more than that one example for my book to sell really well.
You know, as I'm sure you guys both know, that, you know, there's a October 7th parable here too, because most of the people who were killed down south, they were the peaceniks who were trying everything possible to live with the Palestinians. And in many cases, a lot of them worked in their gardens and farms and things of that nature. And those were the very people who knew exactly where the safe rooms were and all of that stuff. Let me jump over to this video. I've shown a couple of videos of this young guy. His name's Nick Shirley. And he just gets out on the street in all of like the crazy zones. And he asks questions of people, often putting himself at great harm. Watch this.
You should be upset with people like me.
I am. That's why I'm finna rob your dumbass. The
Why?
Huh?
I mean,
why? Because you're on indigenous land, not your land. My people's land. What you talking about? I can do whatever the I please on my land. Now give me the phone.
I need it to help people.
No, you don't.
I do.
No, you don't.
I got 10. I got $10.
Give me $10.
Man, I know you got more than $30. Show me your wallet. I'll bet you got $30.
Go to the bank. Go to the bank. Go to.
Not what?
Wait, we still getting the phone. Let me get the phone. And you see this, people? You see how the cycle works? I said I wouldn't take the phone. My little on the other hand, I didn't say nothing about them.
He said he deserves to get robbed.
Yeah, he did.
I like people who talk like that. I'm going to do that on the show now.
That's a skit, right? That's a skit.
As far as we could tell, it is not. I mean, that's not what Nick does. He goes out and he just interviews these people. And what you're getting there is one of these, well, it's the exact thing that you just laid out there, Gad. It's one of these wafy lefties who thinks that what did he say? I need my phone to help people. And it's like, give me your damn phone and how much money do you have? So I don't think it's a skit. And either way, it illustrates a sort of broader point, Viva.
No, well, I did love it. If it is a skit, well played. And if it's not a skit, I need my privilege to help people. So it's the classic not in my backyard, that white woman.
Yeah.
I have it so privileged, but I'm not giving up my privilege. Well, because there's someone who's that much more privileged than me, the white man. He's going to give up his privilege. Then maybe I'll think about it, but I don't want to give up my privilege because I use it to help those underprivileged people who I literally look down on. It's suicidal empathy, Gad. I mean, you've coined the term. We've been using it for a while. It is empathizing with, look, suicidal empathy is one thing. It's just the racial superiority. The only people who are apologizing for the privilege of being white are the white supremacists, and it's not a coincidence that it's coming from one side of the political spectrum these days.
Can I give you an example that speaks to that black-white dynamic that is also front and center in my forthcoming book? So a Norwegian white man, right? Because we now know that most Norwegians are Somali, but the original Norwegian that were in Norway, this guy was sodomized, was raped by a Somali immigrant. Yes. And after the Somali immigrant served a very, very minimal sentence, maybe 2-3 years, whatever it was, because the Norwegians don't believe in punishing people. They're much kinder and so on. When he was let out and he's going to now be deported back to Mogadishu, the guy who had been sodomized by him felt terrible angst because now his sodomizer would not be able to maximally flourish in Mogadishu. Well, I'm here to tell you that our emotional system did not evolve to empathize with our rapists, but here we are. You're speechless, Dave.
It just never ends. Well, yes, you sodomized me, but we wouldn't want to have to send you back.
Well, it's the same rationale as what is being applied for soft on crime, and we see it playing out now in North Carolina, is you can't punish because they're committing acts beyond their own control effectively. And so we need to be sympathetic with them. And if they regress again, well, we just need to, be even more sympathetic to them the next time around. And it's the price that we have to pay in order to be truly understanding to what we believe is some sort of, sub-white behavior, because that's exactly what that woman stalker is describing in her video, instead of just treating people, criminals as criminals, and not factoring in leniency based on race and not factoring in more punishment based on race.
Well, as the luminary Jasmine Crockett said this week, committing a crime doesn't make you a criminal. It's more about a mindset. So if you steal the shoes, you're not a criminal. It's only if you kind of think it's sort of the Seinfeld thing. It's not a lie if you believe it. Let me throw to this video of a guy I've been playing a ton of stuff from lately. I think he makes a hell of a lot of sense. This is Palantir CEO Alex Karp talking about the cultural acceptance of targeting white people.
Our country has selective empathy for everybody but working class, particularly white males. So when you look at coverage in mainstream newspapers about the constitutionality of blowing up boats that are bringing fentanyl here, I guarantee you, if that fentanyl was killing people at schools we went to, potentially your kids are going to, it would be constitutional to blow up those boats. There is selective instrumental use of empathy that somehow is only applied at the point where it would help back to the idea.
Dad, I think you deserve a lot of credit here. You get credit often because Elon's retweeting you left and right these days. But you really did the suicidal empathy notion. Really, not only did the phrase come from you, but that so many people are now finally recognizing it. Well, I'm just giving you credit. How about that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Can I just build on what he just said, just to add texture to what he said? But I appreciate your very kind words. Look, I often, the hit pieces are already starting with, the book is not out, but a whole bunch of people are writing articles that, this Svengali behind Elon Musk is the dark Jew who is trying to create a world void of empathy and so on. And of course, I'm not in the least bit saying that, right? Empathy is a perfectly evolutionarily adaptive strategy. We are a social species. It makes perfect evolutionary sense for a social species to have empathy. But as Aristotle explained to us 2,500 years ago, in the right place, to the right people, in the right amount. And that's what the Palantir guy was referring to, right? It not being able to discriminate to whom your empathy should go is what makes it then suicidal.
Viva, I think, when Trump won the election, I think there was a sense that kind of woke was over and, we were just going to move past this and all this. And interestingly, I think there was a sort of brief period where it felt like it ended. And now I think the anti-white stuff is as strong as ever. There's more people pushing back against it, but the places and the spaces, as they say, where it's accepted, they're still everywhere, where you can just rant and rave about white people without, any fear of retribution or anything. Well,
there's the old expression that, the end goal of socialism is communism. And now I'm realizing that the end goal of the Democrat Party is socialism. I mean, what Karp is describing right there, when he phrases it that way, it's materializing as against white working class people right now, but it's basically the same working class structure of the workers versus the elites. And right now, the left is trying to court a certain demographic, and the easiest way for them to do that is to pit them against white working class by vilifying white working class Americans. And it's just an iteration of Marxism. It's an iteration of socialism, and it's very effective. And what ends up happening is at some point in time, the black population starts to realize that the Democrats only care about them when they can be abused or exploited politically. Same thing for the gays, same thing for Latinos. And then the left needs to find something new to be the parasite on, because they've already sort of milked all the blood they can out of that demographic, and we're just seeing the moving target. But it is, in my lifetime, it's always been, the white man has been the easiest thing to mock, because the Democrats control the media, they controlled politics for the better part of it, and they have better effective messaging, and they've gotten away with it, and they've mainstreamed it into movies, commercials, sitcoms, and music. But it's the end goal is socialism, and the end goal of that is communism, and that's where they're going.
Right. So basically, cultural Marxism was just the prequel to the real Marxism. Gad, I know you are going to have a field day with this clip. This is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frei And he's very excited because we're doing a little Islamic call to prayer in Minneapolis these days.
I wanted to talk to you about a few issues that are important for me, both what we have done and also what we're going to do. I was the first mayor in the entire country to allow for call to prayer in Adhan 5 times a day.
Dad, this is your other area of expertise.
Yes.
I'm big on noise ordinances. I've now realized that. If you remember the original Caddyshack, the guy, what's his name, that great actor with the white hair, what the hell was his name? He was in Too Close for Comfort, Ted Knight.
Oh, Rodney Dangerfield?
No, not Rodney, Ted Knight. He was the stuck-up one, and he talks about how he's into noise ordinances. And it's like, I'm kind of into them now because I don't care wherever you are in America, you should not be subjected to the Muslim or any other call to prayer 5 times a day. And that does not make you a bigot or anything else. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And I'm sure you're both familiar with it. The boiling frog parable is perfectly suited for this, right? In marketing, it's called the just noticeable difference. And let me explain. If let's say a chocolate manufacturing company wants to increase the price of their candy bar, if they increase the price, the consumers will notice. So instead, what they'll do, if it's 100-gram bar for $1, what if we reduce it to 95 grams for $1? Effectively, we have reduced the price, but psychophysically, if when you pick it up, it falls below the just noticeable difference, then you won't know. So what the Islamic, we will use your miserable freedoms against you are doing is, but why do you care if we're just pious people who want to pray? And then most empathetic people go, that makes sense. Well, what do you care if we impose halal on you? Halal and kosher are really the same thing. We're really brothers. Okay, that's okay too. Well, what do you care if we have special accommodations in universities for prayer rooms for Muslims? It's because they have to pray 5 times a day. And so each of them separated seem like, okay, it's a reasonable concession. And then you close your eyes and you wake up in the morning and everybody is in a burqa. That's exactly how it happens. We should not go for it.
Well, of course, also in the societies that they are dominating, they don't make those accommodations for anyone else, which, of course, should be noted. But Viva, even if we took the religious component out of this for just a moment, if my neighbor 3 doors over 5 times a day blasted Marilyn Manson, I would not be happy about it, and I would expect the government to do something. Well, first I would try to knock on their door and talk to them, but this is Florida, and you'd probably get shot, which I kind of respect.
Especially if it's Marilyn Manson.
But yeah, exactly. But even if you remove the religious component, there's something else about the fabric of society here that I just don't think can work.
Well, I mean, someone's going to say you can't even only just remove the religious component because they're going to argue what makes religion unique is that there's a special carve-out in the Constitution for religious protections. And people are going to also, just to steelman the argument, they're going to say, well, if the call to prayer 5 times a day bothers you, what about church afternoon bells from a church? And so you do have to find another angle that's going to respond to those arguments that they're going to make. And my bottom line is, you want to practice your religion. That's what the Constitution protected. It didn't protect the mass broadcast of it and the imposition of it on other people. If people take issue with the church bells, you live in a nation that was founded on Christian principles, whether you like it or not. It might not be a Christian nation, though some argue that it is. You move there, you live by the dictates of that country. And this is, some people are going to say, Viva, well, now do the Jews. And, up in Westmount, where I used to live, they would put the thing, it's called an eruv, like a fishing line around the municipality so that Jews could carry umbrellas because it would be within a perimeter of their home. And, and some people were saying, like, I don't want a fishing line, even if it's as infinitesimally non-observable as a fishing line. I don't want these types of municipal concessions for religious beliefs. And I can understand that. You live in Quebec as a province. If you don't want to speak French, there are plenty of other English provinces to live in. There's plenty of other English countries to live in. You want to practice your religion in peace. That's what America and the Constitution provides to you, not the right to blast it out for other non-Muslims or other people of different religions to have to be subjected to on a daily basis. Much in the same way, hey, you want to slaughter animals the way you do back in certain countries? We're not going to tolerate that on the streets either, even if it's customary in the lands from which you moved into this one. You assimilate and you abide by the rules of the country that you moved to. If you don't like them, there's plenty of other places for you to stay or go.
Gad, can you address, because Viva, that was really well said. Can you address maybe a little bit of the distinction as it relates specifically on the religious side? Because the Eruv that he's talking about, or the bells that may go off once a week, to me, there is some distinction there between that and the call to prayer in terms of a proselytizing religion that is designed to make people submit. But I'm actually sympathetic to what Viva just said right there. Like, I can fully get the secular argument that you could potentially ban all of it. I don't think banning church bells is a good idea, but I can get on board some of that sort of philosophically.
Yeah, look, boxing is a sport that starts with the letter B, and badminton is a sport that starts with the letter B, yet they don't have equal proclivity of causing brain damage, right? Despite the fact that an imbecile would place them as they're both B and they're both sports. So religions are grossly different from each other because their contents matter. In Judaism, it is strictly forbidden to proselytize. As a matter of fact, if you want to join the club, we're going to put you through so many obstacles that, short of you being incredibly committed spiritually to becoming a Jew, you're going to say, this is not worth my time, I'm out. Whereas in Islam, you say one sentence publicly and voila, you've become Muslim. This is why Islam as a marketing practice is brilliant to billion people. Jews suck in marketing their religion. They've been 15 million. Well, how much were they around the Holocaust? It was about 15 million as well. We're about the same as we were back then, right? Precisely because the content of the religion matters. So when you come into the West and you're few in numbers, you play victim. But why God, right? I mean, I understand this. I speak this language. I get it in every one of its timbers. But once we become sufficiently dominant, and we don't have to be majority, but we have to be more than 15, 20%, good night, free society. So beware.
Rejuvenate Coffee just got even better. It's now available in pod form. Most coffee pods give you a quick caffeine spike and nothing else, but Rejuvenate anti-aging pods are different. These clean Arabica coffee pods are infused with CAAKG, a compound studied for longevity, cellular energy, and deep metabolic support. The result is sharper mornings, smoother energy, no crash, and real long-term benefits your body will appreciate. These pods make any routine easier while supporting energy, focus, and overall well-being. If you're going to use coffee pods anyway, choose pods that actually work as hard as you do. Head on over to 1775coffee.com/Rubin to save 15% off your order of the new Rejuvenate anti-aging pods. Don't just wake up, rejuvenate. This is not much of a segue, but I do want to do one other story with you. The big sort of thing in business and media this week was that Netflix has acquired Warner Brothers. This is wild, really wild. Check this out from N Wokeness. Netflix just bought Warner Brothers. You know what that means. And of course, the point there is, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, it's the new Harry Potter movie with a black Harry Potter. The implication being that as we make giant corporate conglomerates that own all of our dreams bigger and bigger, not only will everything go woke, but it will all become homogenized drivel. You know, we don't have to go into what Disney did to Star Wars, and the fact that one corporation, Disney, owns both the Star Wars universe and the Marvel universe. Maybe that's not good for creativity. Viva, there's two parts to this. There's the business side and the creative side. The creative side is kind of what bothers me more. If corporations want to combine, you know, I'm for capitalism, so I'll kind of let it be. But the creative side of this just seems terrible to me.
Well, it's funny. It was a long time ago. Neil Oliver, the British journalist, he was on my channel. He said something I haven't forgotten, and it applies in a variety of circumstances. We were talking about something where I said, is the government getting too big to fail? And he said, no, it's getting too big to succeed. Like, it's getting too big to survive. And there's like stars get big and they get so big, they collapse and they become black holes. And then, they still go through cycles. This is going to be bad for business and bad for creativity. And it's going to get too big to survive. Like, Netflix is having its problems already with the scandal with Stranger Things, which I'm now thoroughly on the fence of, was absolutely, CP obscene. But they're going to merge. They're going to lose creativity. They're going to have a monopoly to some extent. but they're going to go bankrupt and they're going to lose eyeballs to totally independent creators, and especially to potentially AI independent creators that are going to make more compelling crap than what we're getting from these people. So they'll get so big, and then like a star, they'll collapse and or blow up into a supernova. They're going to get too big to survive, and I see that's where it's going.
You know, it's interesting. That's exactly the question I was going to ask Gad. And I've been watching, you know, Star Wars, everyone knows my feelings about it. It's been so wrecked by Disney and everything else, and most people agree with that. And I've caught on YouTube lately a few AI created, they're short videos, you know, like 4 minutes or so, AI created Star Wars movies by fans. And although the AI is not quite there yet, so obviously it doesn't look quite as good as what Disney could pump out, the stories are so much richer, so much more interesting and compelling and truthful and fit the archetypes that they're supposed to and everything else. So, Gad, is that really the sort of silver lining here? It's like these companies can all do whatever the hell they want, but we are on a technological precipice of you will be able to create whatever you want, and if you can't create it for yourself, someone will create it for you, and it'll just be more authentic and real than what a corporation can pump out.
And the free market will react to our earlier point when we were talking about people leaving California as the ultimate metric of what people feel about California. The same thing will happen here. I'll mention another example that you're probably both familiar with. So woke capitalism is very much rooted in suicidal empathy, because you're not trying to maximize the fiduciary responsibility of maximizing short-term profit for your stakeholders, shareholders. There is a higher goal here. You have to elevate marginalized voices. So you probably both remember the Jaguar ad campaign, where it just showed a bunch of outrageous sort of two-spirit, non-binary, and so on, without a single car within 17 miles of that thing. And do you remember what, in his beautiful pithiness, Elon wrote as a response? He said, "Hey, do you still sell cars?" Right? And guess what happened? They had a catastrophic reaction from the market. So the good news is we are still a somewhat free society, and the invisible hand of the market, as Adam Smith taught us, will punish these idiots.
You know, we covered that ad, and if I'm not mistaken, that campaign, they sold something like 11 cars. That's how absolutely insane it was. Guys, let's end with this, because it's a Friday, it's been an emotional week, and I want to do something with midgets. Go.
Conversations are nuanced. But the moment we have dwarf roles, which are the most famous dwarf roles in Hollywood history, then the only people apparently who can't play them are dwarf actors.
Weren't dwarf
and
roles.
I see there
it's a cartoon,
stinking
Piers.
woke hypocrisy.
It has not changed. It was a cartoon. Those weren't actually dwarfs in the movie. They were drawn, okay? So firstly...
They were drawn as dwarfs.
No, that is...
But it's a story about dwarves,
dwarfs.
Well, they shouldn't be called that. They should be called...
They shouldn't be called dwarves.
No, they should be called people with dwarfism.
They shouldn't be called...
What's wrong with being called dwarves?
Nothing, but that's not the correct
That's the story.
Dylan, apparently you're not allowed to call yourself
dwarf.
Apparently, Dylan, you're not allowed to call yourself dwarves, apparently.
I would love to hear, what should I call myself, sir?
I think you should call yourself whatever you feel comfortable with.
I'm actually exposing the hypocrisy of the woke mentality of only gay people can play gay parts, only trans actors can play trans parts, and so on and so on and so on.
I think we will get to a place where everyone can play
Snow
every
White
role.
and the Seven Dwarfs has to be cancelled because you're not allowed to have dwarf actors.
You should be happy, Piers, because it means that now you can play your dream role of Grumpy.
That leftist dingbat, I think his name's Owens something or other, the fact that he's there, he's a mental midget telling an actual midget what he should be. Yeah, Gad, go ahead.
Can I give you a personal story? I don't know, lady boy. Whenever I appear on Piers, I always tell the producers, I only do one-on-one because I don't want to do that whole stuff that Piers does. And so they said, okay, absolutely, Professor, we promise you. So it was supposed to be me and Piers talking ostensibly about his latest book, you know, The End of Wokeness and so on. And then they said it was a technical glitch. I'm not sure it was. Then I was ambushed by all of these wokesters, including that lady boy. I think I was rather calm and collected. But yes, I am intimately familiar with that mental midget.
Gad, I'm not that familiar with the technical part of what goes on here, but I will confer with Connor after, and I'm pretty sure that was not a technical error on their part. That was what we call a sandbagging in the industry. Viva, bring us home.
Well, better a sandbagging than a teabagging, and Piers Morgan still has me blocked on Twitter, that coward. I'll bring you home. We just saw the male incarnate of Sarah Stalker from earlier on. She's ashamed of being white, and he is telling the dwarf that he can't call himself dwarf because the big white man knows what's better for the dwarf than the dwarf himself. This is dwarf denialism. This is erasure of dwarfdom from the world. That white dude saying, you dwarves who had a market in movies, if only because, you're playing the dwarves or comedic, whatever. It might not be right, but at least you had jobs. Now he's saying, no, you're all going to be out of work, and you're going to have to go back to the freak show circuses. Who was the guy that did it? P.T. Barnum. You're going to have to go to be a P.T. Barnum sideshow and no longer mainstream acceptance. That is the pet projects that white liberals have. They like to control people who they consider to be their inferiors.
Gentlemen, you are both pro-dwarf and intellectual giant. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, you too.